Did you know right before XXXTentacion passed away, he would post on Instagram, "If anyone tries to get me, it was at Champagne Papi, aka Drake. I'm snitching right now." With even a lawyer in X's trial saying that Drake was responsible.
And do you think that for one moment, here today, days after the event, two masked men, right? He came on social media and said, "Guys, if anybody is Drake," do you think in that time span that they went and they addressed him, they talked to him? No. Do you think sitting here today, years later, any detective has ever asked, Drake or anybody like that? No. They never did that. So you ask yourself, how could that be? And you say, hey, it's so-and-so. You better believe so-and-so is going to get investigated. But in this case, they didn't do it. They didn't do it because it didn't comport with their version and their narrative. And as law enforcement, I think that they have the obligation to do so.
Then suddenly, 6 months after the passing of X, a viral TV program based on religious camps would show someone attending it looking like his twin. In this camp, there is no internet access, no cell phones, or even TVs, making some believe that he is still alive and that he's hiding. But here's the truth. On June 18th, 2018, X would start his day by going into his BMW i8 and driving to Riva Motorsport, a massive retailer for all things motorcycle, boats, and off-roading vehicles. Once arriving to the store, X finds a motorcycle he likes, when a manager would then tell him they do cash deals for a discount. X would leave the shop where cell phone evidence from his trial shared. X would end up calling his mother, telling her that he's gonna buy a new motorcycle. His mother told him to come pick up his uncle, so then someone can drive his i8 back home. After picking up his uncle, the two head to the Bank of America to withdraw cash for a new bike. Security surveillance caught XXXTentacion even walking into the bank.
During your encounter with Mr. Envoy during this time, what was his demeanor like?
Fine. He said he's happy.
This same bank teller would go to X's trial, telling the jury that X was asking for $250,000 in cash, to which she rejected him as their policies only allow $50,000 withdrawals without a cash order. She handed X the $50,000 in cash and then ordered the rest for him at a later date. What XXXTentacion did not realize is the four suspects of Michael Boatwright, Dedrick Williams, Trayvon Newsom, and Robert Allen were sitting in the parking lot scoping out his i8. Robert Allen, the snitch in X's case, mentioned they were already planning on committing a crime this day for money. X's vehicle, parking right beside them, practically just fell into their hands. Once realizing whose vehicle this was, they would end up tailing him. They would follow XXXTentacion back to Riva Motorsports with two objectives: snatching his diamond chain and trying to see what was in the Louis Vuitton bag that he carried into the bank. When X would arrive back at Riva, the four suspects would park their van across the street. Two men would then hop out of their van to go watch X from a distance inside a Riva, keeping an eye on him, making sure he doesn't go anywhere inside the store. The other two men were parking their vehicle across the street and making sure X's vehicle wouldn't leave. The two men that followed X into the store ended up purchasing the ski masks and gloves they used for the crime right beside XXXTentacion. There's even surveillance footage of them entering the store where X would make eye contact with one of the suspects, caught on tape. XXXTentacion would continue on, looking at other motorcycles with his uncle, as he wasn't able to obtain all of the cash that he needed. He ended up not even purchasing one, meaning all of the cash in the Louis V bag was all still in it, to which these robbers would end up flexing on Instagram, but more on that later. It would sadly be this tragic mistake that took the life of XXXTentacion. When arriving back to his BMW, he sat in park for roughly 7 minutes. Court evidence suggests that he was using his iPhone on Instagram and Twitter. With him sitting in park for 7 minutes, it gave the other two robbers inside of the store enough time to leave, sprint over to the van across the street, and get ready. When it was time for X to leave, he would turn his vehicle out of his parking spot and then enter the one-way parking lot exit. When trying to leave, a minivan would pull right in front of X's car, blocking him from leaving, to which two men then hopped out of the van, one on each side of X's car, holding firearms, demanding him to roll his windows down and hand off the bag of cash. XXXTentacion refused to give up the Louis V bag. With them getting extremely angry, X's uncle in the passenger seat was then seen opening up his door, leaving it wide open, and then he would sprint away back into Riva, leaving XXXTentacion all by himself with an entryway right to him. A small brawl would end up through X's window. Meanwhile, the other robber would just go around the car to the open door, to which he would then commit the crime against XXXTentacion. The two men were then able to run off with X's Louis V bag full of cash, hop back into their vehicle, but inside of the court trial, it was revealed the prosecutor says Dedrick Williams was driving and cut off the car being driven by XXXTentacion. Michael Boatwright and Trayvon Newsom put the ski masks on and had the firearms. The passenger managed to run away. They approached X, and then Boatwright did the act towards them. But this is where we would learn the truth. Robert Allen, one of the four suspects, would end up taking a plea deal and snitching against the other three. We learned exactly how the 50 grand was split, including photos of them flexing the money. Michael Boatwright, Dedrick, and Trayvon all got $15,000 each, meaning Robert, the snitch, was only given $5,000. Pretty interesting, the man paid the least amount of money is the one snitching. As this tweet would also be shared, pictures taken after XXXTentacion's passing the same day shows defendant Michael Boatwright flashing a ton of cash. Defendant turned state witness testifies this is X's money, and the photos were taken hours after the incident, revealing these photos of the suspects flexing a few $1,000s worth of cash thinking they're cool. Meanwhile, they could have worked at McDonald's and made that money legit. Shortly after Robert Allen shared the money, he would then end up sharing what X's last words were. After the incident was done and the suspects hopped back into the vehicle, they shared what X was saying. As said by DJ Academics, XXXTentacion's last words were, "What is this for?" making his passing feel even more upsetting. X didn't even understand what was going on. It all happened within seconds. With surrounding witnesses at the scene also taking photos, publishing everything to social media, the news of X passing would spread fast. Rappers would begin reacting and sharing their favorite moments with them, as Juice WRLD, who had multiple conversations with X, had this to share about the rapper.
We had a couple deep conversations, talked on the phone a few times. He had nothing but positive stuff to say. For real, for real. We had respect for each other at the end of the day. And that's what was gonna kind of lead into a friendship. He just said, make sure it's to keep all negative people out of your life. And just make sure that you have good energy around you, pretty much.
He'd also hop on a radio station interview where he would share this about the creation of his song titled Legends, which honors late rappers X and Lil Peep.
And that Legends record, it speaks because you dropped it right after, X.
I made the same night he passed away.
Wow. What was about that?
Yeah, what was their relationship like?
We weren't the best of friends. We had a couple deep conversations though. He had nothing but good advice to give.
X's music was so big that in 2024, we still had big legends like 50 Cent claim that X would have been the biggest artist in the entire industry if he didn't pass away.
It's sad because he's young, kid. He's just really getting off into his career, really. In a lot of places, he had #1 album, but they wouldn't cover it because of his legal issues. Yeah. When you see Spotify switch.
To which Ski Mask the Slump God would even bring up their upbringing together and share what he meant to him.
I met X in juvenile jail. Both was in juvenile jail spending time. Then we just was like, yeah, we need an outlet to just stop getting in trouble. All we like to do is hit licks and do hood friends. Long story short, so it's just all right, we need to find something to do. So we was in there just beating on the tables because all you can really do is sit there and stare at each other. So we sitting there beating on the chairs and stuff, and then we just figured out each other could rap, and then we just helped each other.
Where he would then also reveal never before known information and how they originally produced their unique, distorted type of music, just like their collaboration song, Take a Step Back.
X recorded my first song. He ordered the stuff off of eBay. It was a snowball mic. It was the cheapest mic you could get. It set on 3 prongs or 4 prongs, one of those. And it was just a basic Audacity and a laptop. But that's how we got distorted music.
With other famous rappers sharing their loving memories of XXXTentacion.
I was going to Miami to do several shows, and I performed in Orlando, and then I performed in Miami with X. Ever since I had met bro, we had just became super cool friends. And now that's my best friend, I could say.